This is Beyond Business. Witness the real lives of Cranbrook's female entrepreneurs as they candidly tell their stories, their experiences, and their struggles in raw, revealing conversations. I'm very pleased to have my friend Angela here. She has been in business, owning and running Boston Pizza. Is it 15 years? This year, 15 years.
Yeah, hard to believe. It goes by in a blink of an eye. I swear it feels like 5, and here we are 15 years later. Moved to British Columbia from Saskatchewan, and yeah, never looked back.
So 15 years in business, you have a few partners. So the franchise here in Cranbrook, you own it with your sister, your ex, and you have another, like, we're going to unpack that because that's something awesome, and another person. So you guys started this business, and you've always been in the operational part of the restaurant. But in the last year and a half, it's just been you running the show day to day. And so you've gone one full financial cycle and a bit more, and you've been rocking it.
Yeah, we've been setting records in all areas, which has been absolutely amazing. And I'm really proud of my team because I honestly wouldn't be in that situation without such great people.
Well, and I love that you said that, because that is one thing that successful people know. They know that they didn't do it on their own. And when people talk about the team immediately, it speaks to the way that you work, and it speaks to the way that you run your business, but it also is in line with how so many people achieve success, because we don't do things on our own. We don't do things in a silo. So I just love that you started with that right from the get-go. And because I know you, I know how much mentorship and relationship means to you. And that comes out when you talk about having a team.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've said for a few years now, I'm like, I'm only as good as my people. So I need to make sure that I hire right from the beginning. I train those people to do the jobs that they need to do so that I can do the things that I need to do. If I'm constantly having to oversee the little things, the business isn't going to be setting goals. And thankfully, the team we have had for the last, 2-3 years has been absolutely amazing. And it's allowed me the flexibility to work on other things to drive sales, drive bottom line numbers. And those when you have your own business, I mean, those are crucial to your success.
Mm-hmm. So let's start back in time 15 years ago, because at that time, did you have, I'm trying to think how old your oldest is. Like, he must have been a baby.
He was 2 when we moved here. And
Great time to start a new business.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
And I had never even been to Cranbrook. And when they said they were looking for franchisees in Cranbrook, I had to go look on a computer and look up Cranbrook. What is this place? I don't even know where this is. And looked it up, and I saw these pictures of mountains, and I thought, yeah, that place looks really nice. Yeah, let's move there. So we packed everything up and brought our 2-year-old and moved out here. And no amount of training can prepare you for what happened and what was going to happen. We were lined up, honestly, for 3 months, out the door for 3 months. And there was a Boston Pizza here before. And there was a bit of a break between franchisees and locations. So we had built our new building. And I think everybody in the whole area wanted to come check it out in that first 3 months. So yeah, it was absolutely insane and worked a ton, and no regrets at all. It was worth every second. And yeah, here we are today.
Because your experience prior to owning the Boston Pizza in town was not in business.
No, I was doing communications for the government. I loved my job, and I loved the people I was working with. I was working with Casinos Regina and Moose Jaw. So many amazing communication challenges that they were facing. And I was in my glory and loving everything that I was doing. But I also have always had that entrepreneurial bug. And I knew that I wasn't going to be there forever. And when this opportunity came up, we did think, like, this is our chance to really, go do something really special. And we really believed in the Boston Pizza brand, very much a family-oriented restaurant and brand, and that fit with who we were or are. And when that chance came up, we thought, we need to go do this.
So what does it mean when you say that you had an entrepreneurial bug? It sounds like you knew that you were meant for being in business, but you just hadn't found your way there yet. Some people, when I talk to entrepreneurs, they've known since they were in grade 2 that they were an entrepreneur. Or you see these people and they talk about all their life, they've been gravitating towards making money and building wealth. So is that what you mean? Or what did that look like for you to be an entrepreneur and to know that you were one, even though you weren't doing that at that time?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I grew up on a farm in Saskatchewan. And if you know anything about farming, you were always looking for that next great thing to make money. That's the way farming worked. So we were grain farmers, cattle farmers, and then, we should get into raising chickens and butchering 100 chickens and delivering them to people all around our community, and turkeys and ducks and pigs, and it was always the next best thing. And that's kind of how my parents raised us 3 kids. So we've kind of, all 3 of us always had that entrepreneurial, kind of outlook in life. We were always looking for, okay, how can we make this better? Or how can we do this differently to possibly make more money, or, whatever it would be, more enjoyment, whatever it might be. That was instilled early on. And I worked after high school, I worked for my aunt and uncle. They had a car dealership. So always been dabbling in either family businesses or being exposed to them. My first job after college, I worked for a public relations consulting firm. A wonderful woman who I still treasure to this day. She was my mentor in that industry. And she had her own PR firm. And I'm like, okay, I can see myself doing this. And so for many years, that's what I worked towards. And before I went to the casinos, I was actually running my own company, public relations consulting, for about 3 years, I think it was. And it was great, just a little bit lonely working by yourself. So
Right.
That's when my client was actually the casinos. And then they made me a job offer. And I thought, this is my chance to get back to working with a team and, various departments. And so when that came up, I snagged it and spent 5 or 6 years there before moving out here.
Okay. So you've always kind of been in business.
Yeah.
Because you come from a family
Yeah.
that was making business work.
Yeah.
And so you make the decision, you move across several provinces. You have relatively a young family, and you're in business with your husband, and you're diving full on in, and it's insane. The first 3 months could not have prepared you for what.
Yeah, and we didn't know anybody here. So here we are, trade off with our 2-year-old at the time. I'd work a day, my husband at the time would work the night, and we'd not see we wouldn't be together most of the time. It was rare that we would have a weekend or even a day off, the 3 of us. But really, once kind of time wore on, then those opportunities did come up. But yeah, the first 15 years were very hard. I joke about that because it's still, we have another child now, and, most kids love Boston pizza. My kids do not love Boston pizza because they've grown up there. They've lived there. In fact, I even found a photo today of both of my kids laying on the office floor. I put sleeping bags. They got, video screens or watching movies with headphones. And I'm like, yeah, they truly did live in the business for many, many years.
So your kids grew up in Boston Pizza because that was the opportunity that you had to be together as a family.
Yeah.
Because a restaurant business is 7 days a week.
Very much so.
And it starts in the morning because even though the restaurant's not open, business is open.
Yeah.
You're getting organized for the day. You're doing inventory. There's a lot of work that happens in those hours before the restaurant opens. And then you're open late, especially a place like Boston Pizza.
Yeah.
There's that whole crowd that's coming out later in the evening.
Yeah.
So family time probably happened there.
Yeah. Oh, there's my daughter. She was born, she's 12 now. So anyways, I had a bassinet in the office. And 1 week after I had her, I was back doing payroll and she's sleeping in the bassinet in the office. So yeah, very much. I think it's, when you own a business and you do have a young family, it is a lot of sacrifice. And eventually that does come to fruition. And now, I still love going in there And, you know, I open the back door each day, and one of the perks is you have no idea what's going to happen that day. Like, anything can happen when you walk in the back door. And I think I'm thriving on that whole not knowing every day. Like, every day is different, you know, or dealing with a guest in a situation is different. You learn something new every single day, and it's amazing.
I love where you've taken this, and the way that you are thinking about your work. And the reason why is because other people hearing that story, that a week later you're doing payroll with your baby in the bassinet, or that your kids are laying on the floor in their sleeping bags, that not everybody is going to revel in that situation. Mm-hmm. You know, like, they're going to feel the weight of that, or the guilt of that, or the shame of that, rather than seeing that this was something that was giving to you too. Mm-hmm. And giving to your family, right? Like, this business made it possible for you to live the life that your family was living as well.
Exactly. And that's one of the reasons why we wanted to do this, is because we wanted to create that freedom and flexibility to be there for our kids when we could, whether it's a Christmas concert or, Remembrance Day ceremony at the school. I can slip out for half an hour and go be part of that. And I think that's a lot of the perks of being an entrepreneur, is you kind of set your own, you determine what's important to you.
Yeah.
You know, not everybody's going to pick those same things, but I am very family oriented, and I want to be able to spend those moments with my kids and remember them, and them knowing that I was there for that.
So that was a driving force to look for a business.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So talk me through what it's been like these 15 years, because we've talked about where it started, and in the transition of that process, you're no longer married. Like, that's a big deal. And
yeah.
And it's a big deal because you had to navigate that space. Like, you worked and owned your business together. And you still own your business together. Mm-hmm. So how did you manage that? Because I think that there are a lot of women who have that similar situation where their relationship has changed.
It's tough. And knowing what I know now, I probably would have done things differently. I probably would have made rules or boundaries around work at home. We were at the point where it was constantly work. There was never a break from work. And I think that pressure and that stress, and then particularly when COVID came around, not knowing if we were going to even be open, it was a lot. And I think both of us just realized at that point that we didn't want that for our home life. That constantly work. And the kids too. I mean, they could sense, when times are tough and you're feeling that pressure, I don't think your patience with your children is probably where it needs to be. And my kids now will call me out on it.
Because they know.
They definitely know.
Well, and that's part of the age that they are now, right? And they've watched mom.
Yeah.
go through different things, and they want you to be okay.
Yeah. But the beauty of it now, which I'm really, like, now we're at this different stage where my son is going into grade 12. And he is now asking, okay, Mom, well, what did you say to that person when you had to deal with that situation? So it's now almost, I am coaching and mentoring him on, how you approach these things. And that is, really heartwarming to see that he has an interest in that. And, maybe he'll go down that path. I don't know. But if I can help him, with relationships with people or dealing with customer service, then I think that's just going to make him a stronger human and, figure out what he wants to do.
Well, and regardless of what path he chooses, he has a lifetime of business knowledge that he doesn't even know he has.
Exactly.
Because he grew up in a family where his parents were both entrepreneurs. Yeah. And he's watched the rhythms. Because when you're new to business, you don't always realize that there's downs. Sometimes it's just ups. because you just keep working and things are coming together and it's working out, and you haven't had dips. But the longer you're in business, the more you experience that roller coaster, right?
Yeah.
And knowing that it's okay, knowing that you can come through things and that things can fail and that you can pivot. Like he's got a lifetime of knowledge that he doesn't even know he has. So what's really cool is that he's talking to you about it.
Yeah, it's actually, especially the last few months, and I don't know if it's because now he's at that stage where it says last year high school, so he's thinking, okay, what's next? But he is eager to learn. He wants to learn how to deal with these situations. You know, what did you say to that guy, Mom? And then I will tell him, and and then explain why I word the things the way I do. And then I could just see the wheels turning in his head. So, I think it's wonderful. It's wonderful to watch that happen.
It is. It's a gift.
Yeah.
For all of this work that you've put into the business, it's a gift because out of that is coming this new way of connecting and mentoring your son, which is really awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so back to being in the restaurant, you mentioned that there's things you would have done different. When we were talking about the relationship, you said in retrospect, there might have been something you did different, and you were talking about the piece related to the pressures and the stress. And I just want to acknowledge that because I work with my husband, I get it. I get there's no separation of stress. Like he can't come home and complain about work. And I can't just be supportive of him complaining about work. Because it's my fault on some level, because I'm also contributing to this situation that is work.
Yeah.
So it gets really difficult because you don't always align. And one of the things that couples do for each other is they relieve the stress that other people that their partner has from their day. But when you are in that same stress and there's no separation and you can't offer reprieve, it makes it really difficult.
Yeah, there's no break.
There's no break.
It's a constant from get up till you go to bed, but even through the night when you're not sleeping, you're still thinking about all those things. So you're really it's 24/7.
Well, and how do you put boundaries and say we're not talking about work?
Yeah.
Like then it's like after a new baby and you're like, we're not going to talk about the baby, and you just sit there and stare at each other because you have nothing to say. Because sometimes when you're an entrepreneur, everything is work.
Yeah.
And it's not always like that, but there are seasons I have found where it is.
Exactly. That's exactly it.
So what do you talk about if you're making boundaries around not talking about work? Like,
Yeah. And no downtime. Like, we didn't go do things together because we were always working. You know, and it wasn't just until a few years ago, we actually went out to the Moye Lake Beach, and we took our lawn chairs and took the kids and set up out there, and both sitting in the lawn chair and the kids are playing in the sand, and we look at each other and we're like, okay, this is weird. We have never done this before. And this is like 12 years into business or 11 years into business. So we had never done that. We do maybe like a 1 week trip to Mexico every year, but that was our only break away. But we were still doing work while we were there. Like I was still doing the payroll, and we were still answering all the calls and issues. But yeah, I don't know why we didn't carve that time out earlier on to say, okay, this is our family day. We're going to the beach. We didn't do that, and maybe we should have.
I think it's hard to know what you're not doing right in the middle. Do you know? And not that even that you weren't doing something right, but sometimes we don't realize what the consequences are going to be for the decisions we're making, both good and bad. Sometimes things have a way of working out for us, and other times things have a way of working against what we're going towards, because that dream of owning this business together was a shared dream for the life that you were going to provide for your family. So it's kind of like, hey, we're going to put our head down because you know where you're going. And then
put your head down and work for those times when you can be together, but then it was always about work, so we never actually executed. So that's I don't know, it's okay.
Well, you know what I appreciate about you? I just want to tell you this. Let me tell you two things that I appreciate about you. The first thing I appreciate is how consistent you are. And what I mean by that is you show up day after day after day after day, and you continue working towards whatever it is that you're working toward. And that's the way you do life. Mm-hmm. And it's inspiring because I like to take the summer off the gym.
Yeah.
And I know you're not because you're consistent.
Yeah.
And when you're consistent like that, things become so habitual, and it's incredible what you can accomplish. So I'm inspired by your consistency because I see that in all areas of your life. I see that in the way that you approach work. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure it's been like that since day one. Mm-hmm. That you just keep going. And it sounds like it probably came from growing up in a farm in Saskatchewan. Like, this is how your family did life.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, it's funny because the other day I was talking to someone about farming in Saskatchewan. And I said, truly, it's a gamble. You're gambling on so many things for that entire crop year. Did you get enough rain? Did you get enough sun? Did the grasshoppers eat everything? Did the hailstorm come and wipe everything out? Mm-hmm. So I think, like my mom and my dad, they must have been very optimistic people because they could have been totally wiped out. And, wow, there's always next year. We'll plant another crop again, right? So, I think that probably was instilled in us from a young age too. It's like, no matter what happens, you just keep going.
Well, and it's funny that that's where you went with this, because that's the second thing I wanted to say. I wanted to say that one of the things I appreciate about you is your refusal to see the negative. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Like, you don't entertain it. And I appreciate, like, I'm being earnest in this, and I appreciate the way that you have a positive outlook about things like the relationship. Mm-hmm. Because I can only imagine how difficult that would have been. But here you are saying, you know what? We're moving towards something better. And next year is going to be different. And I'm moving in this direction. And I think it's amazing that you have that outlook in life. And I think it's one of the things that drives the way that you work and live and the way that you're an entrepreneur.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. That is a huge compliment. I try to instill that in my people too. Mm. Customer service, it can be very difficult at times. Yes. And how do you pull out that positive piece of that interaction? And I really, whenever I deal with a situation, I will try to coach the staff on that and just say, like, okay, well, here's the highlight of this. This is what's good. This is what we've learned. This is what we'll do different next time. This is how we're going to make it better. And, and maybe that's part of being an entrepreneur is you're always looking how to improve, how to make things better, how to grow. And I think to do that, you have to look at the positive side. If you're constantly looking at the negative, how would you ever see any growth in any situation if you're always focused on the negative? Or
how would you ever get out of bed to do stuff?
Yeah.
I mean, if you only looked at the negative.
Yeah.
If you're focusing on the negative, you would never be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Because there's always some cost.
Yeah. There isn't probably a day in the last year and a half for sure since I've been on my own with the business that I haven't not wanted to go to work. I wake up, I'm like, I get to go to work today. I get to see these great people. I get to have an interaction with a guest. And like even yesterday, there were some folks in, the gentleman had a Saskatchewan Rough Rider hat. And so I'm like, oh, are you guys from Saskatchewan? Thinking they're travelers. Oh, no, we've been living here for 60 years or whatever it was. And so we got chatting, and it was a great conversation. And those are highlights. Like those every day when you can have one of those, it's like, oh, I met some new people today. And, just that interaction, it just can be so memorable and heartwarming.
You're in the right industry.
Yes. Yes.
You know, because not all businesses offer that opportunity for connection.
Yeah.
And you don't only have that with your guests, you have that with your team.
Yeah.
Which you've really been cultivating as of late. Because, okay, so early on in the business, there's the two of you making decisions about how this business is going to go on the day-to-day basis. You have your partners, but they're more on the outskirts, right? It's primarily you and your spouse that are making the decisions of what does work look like here at Boston Pizza? What does our life look like? Mm-hmm. But then that shifts, and your partner, your husband, is no longer going to be in the front line of the business. So he's now stepping back and taking a back seat like your other partners, and it's on you now. So talk to me about that, because I want to know what that experience was like, because the entire time you did it together, and then you shifted.
Yeah, and for the first 3 months, I thought, am I crazy? Why would I even do this on my own? Because it was a lot. But it comes back to having those good people. Because those people helped me get through those first 3 months of not knowing what I was doing in certain areas. Because we had very defined, okay, you're doing this area and I will do this area and so forth. We just kind of divided all the tasks and responsibilities up. And then all of a sudden here I'm doing all the tasks and responsibilities. And it was a lot. And I don't know that I was prepared for it. But I did have some great people that I could lean on. And they helped pick up where I couldn't until I got my feet under me to figure out, okay, how do I make this all work? And you talk about consistency. I wasn't going to the gym then because I needed that time. I couldn't do it all. And I stopped doing that for a bit so that I could just focus on the business. Once the business was where I wanted it to be, okay, I'm back at the gym. I got that regular routine.
Yeah.
So, yeah, definitely was a learning experience for sure.
Well, and that's such a valuable point that you just brought up. The piece about there are times when you have to just do certain things. You cannot carry everything. And I think as an entrepreneur, we can get sucked into thinking, I've got to carry everything, or I've got to do this, this, and this, and this. And then we get all of these messages. We have to take care of our health. We have to take care of our family. We have to take care of our relationship. And those are a lot of pieces. So how do you do all of those well?
Yeah, you only have a capacity for so much. And I would just tell people, Kate, it's overflowing. Like the jar's overflowing now. So I have to scale something back because you have to know what your limitations are or it's not going to work.
Well, and knowing that you can put something aside, it doesn't mean that you're throwing it out. It doesn't mean that you no longer are going to be going to the gym or that your health routine is going to fall apart. It just means for this season, if I don't focus more energy towards this, then it's not going to work.
Yeah.
And I need to direct this extra time that I would normally be spending at the gym has to come over here.
Yeah.
And I think that can be really hard because that can feel like a sacrifice, that you have to give up this piece.
Yeah, and I was almost at the point where I really wasn't liking myself or appreciating myself because I wasn't taking care of myself. I was, from the minute I got up, straight to work. And then I would spend the whole day there just trying to get everything where I wanted it to be. And I'm very impatient with success. I want things done now. So that 3 months, maybe for other people might have been a 6 month or 8 month process, but I let's do it all at once, so I think that's why, something had to give. And I chose that. I don't know if it was the right decision now because it's so crucial to my well-being. And it's such a piece of who I am. But maybe the business then maybe it would have taken 8 months to get where it needed to be if I had done that. So I guess it's a trade-off.
Yeah, it sounds like it was a trade-off, that you put aside that piece that was so important to you for a time in order that you could focus on things. And I think there's something to be said for that, because you can rush things, you can do more faster, or you can do less over longer. And I mean, it's not always like that, but just I think part of you knew, okay, if I just really dive into this, it'll be quick. Yeah. And then I can start building pieces back, because there is a learning curve when you're doing something new.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would say that for sure, actually. Yeah. And
so now, after that, it took 3 months. Is that how you feel? How long?
It was 3 months of hard work. And then from there, it's just every day got a little easier. And as people came in, like the people that we have now, it just got easier every time. You know, when you get someone that can bring this to the table, it's like, okay, now I don't have to worry about that now. Now they can do that.
Right.
So yeah, it definitely helps.
So talk to me about this process, because for the first however many years, like 12, 13 years, you're shared. And then you finally get to do it the way you want to do it. Not that you weren't before. Do you know what I mean? But you know when you're in business.
Are we putting this all out there?
It's up to you. But you know how when you're in business, especially when you are the way you are, which is very growth focused, which is very let's do this, and you have a lot of zest and excitement for where you can take things. And when you are balancing back and forth with someone else in that, you don't necessarily have the freedom. I mean, sometimes those people really push and encourage you, and other times you're not in alignment, and you're not going in the same direction, and you're not on the same page. And then when that happens, you start to feel like your hands are tied. So you get in there, and now you get to do whatever you want. What was that like?
At first, I would say a ton of resentment. Because this wasn't, like, I only planned a portion of this. I wasn't planning that I would be running the whole entire thing. So I think for the first few months, I was a little bit angry, like, okay, now I'm stuck doing all of this. What was I thinking? And, you know, just it's probably a lot of self-doubt, if anything. But I did want to just circle back to what you were saying about two people making decisions. One thing I have figured out, if you do own your own business, there does need to be one final decision maker. And I think that's where we lacked, we kept flopping back and forth we just didn't have clear direction. And I think for the first 12 years of the business, we coasted. You know, we weren't setting these incredible goals. Once we sat down and set goals, I did with my team, all of a sudden, okay, the sales are up here. Our expenses are down. We're controlling expenses like we never have in the past 12 years. It just made such a huge difference to have that one driving force. And I think the staff appreciate that as well. They maybe were conflicted because one person's view is this and the other person's view is this other way. And I think they probably were unsure of, like, who's making the decision here? And, you know, what's the clear direction? Well, now there's no doubt.
Well, and you're talking about what sounds to me like an intrinsic value, like a way of approaching business. It's not so much what the activities were at work or what they weren't, but it's about what are we actually doing here and why are we doing it? Yeah. And I wonder if that's where the misalignment was.
Yeah, I think probably in the beginning, we looked at it like, okay, we're serving pizza and serving food and drinks, and yeah, this is great.
We're doing this so we can have the life we want for our family.
Yeah. Now I have a totally different approach to it. We don't serve food and drinks. That's the extra. We're serving memories. We're creating memories for people, whether it's their first date or they're coming in for their first job, after their first job, day of their first job, wedding anniversaries, deaths, births, everything. We are the place that people go. You know, that 20 people will come in because it's the granddaughter's birthday and they're making that memory. They want to come to Boston Pizza and create that memory. So how do the staff fit into that? They need to make these moments special. They need to make these moments stand out in the guest's mind. And that's how we flipped everything in the last year and a half, is approaching it like that. We're not serving pizza. We're serving great times that you're going to remember with your family.
That's incredible.
It's a beautiful thing.
Because I am a big lover of connection and getting together and celebrating, and that we do life together with people. So it makes me want to go to Boston Pizza. I'm like, I want to make memories there with you. Yeah. You know, because, and I think that your guests feel that when they come into the place. And when people feel that way about the food that they're eating, they want to do more of that, because food in our culture isn't just about fuel.
Exactly.
It's so much about connection. And
Yep.
so the fact that you're tapping into that, and it also, I mean, correct me on this if I'm wrong, but I think it probably inspires staff to want to stay.
Yeah, like our turnover is very limited, especially in the last 3 years, I would say. And we've taken a different approach with that too, is, not so hard on, these are the rules. You need to do this, you need to do that. It's more, how do you think we can do this? How can you make that guest experience special? I've got a gentleman right now, he's a server. He does magic tricks at the tables with kids. And people on Facebook are, giving little shout outs to him like, hey, we went into Boston Pizza. We had this server. He did magic tricks. We love him. All this stuff. And that's creating memories with these people. They remember that. They want to come in again.
Well, and my kids would eat that up. Are you kidding me? If I told them that the server was going to do magic tricks, they would be all over that. Like, it would blow them away. And what's so incredible about this is that you've seen that this person has this interest and you've created space for them to express that. Mm-hmm. Even though it's completely out of the box.
Yeah.
And even the fact that that person felt that they could ask you, can I do this, speaks to the leadership style that you have in your company.
Yeah. It's like the human dynamics is so interesting because what works with one person is not going to work for the other person. And you really need to tailor your management style or even your approach to them and how you even talk to them and say hello differently for every single person. And getting to know them and what they're interested in and what do they do outside of work goes a long way to keeping these people employed there. They want to stay because they feel valued. They feel like they're part of something. We try to create relationships with every single person.
Well, and that type of work often has a lot of entry level people, right? Like, they're coming into this job. It's oftentimes a first job, or it's a job that's leading to another job. So it's the type of job that can create a lot of movement. And the fact that you're holding on to people, that's amazing.
Yeah. These kids that come, they go away to school, they come back every summer. And I've said this too, and I've actually taken pictures over the years of certain staff that have come in. They start as they're in high school. They start out there, and then all of a sudden here they are, they're getting married and having babies and moving on to careers. And I'm still in touch with these people. They still come in and I get to see them and almost be part of their lives still. And that's pretty amazing to watch. Mm-hmm. And you go talk about the first job. Everybody remembers their first job, whether it's good or whether it's bad. My goal, make sure it's a great experience because I want them to always remember that. Hey, my first job was at Boston Pizza. Oh, it was so great. We got to do this and we got to do that. I want them to remember the positive side of it.
Let's talk about that a little bit more. Because when you talk about work, it doesn't sound like work to me. Like, I can feel your interest and I can sense your passion for this. And we're talking about a restaurant, which, like, can I just put that out there? Like, this is a restaurant.
Yeah.
And it's not, and it's not your restaurant in the sense that you got to choose the menu.
Yeah.
Or that you get to, because it's a franchise. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of opportunity for personal expression in a restaurant and where you can pour your soul into it and be artistic and be creative.
Yes.
But a franchise is not that.
No.
But when you talk about it, like, I'm excited about Boston Pizza listening to you talk about this because it doesn't sound like work. It sounds like you're passionate about it, but it's a restaurant. How did you get there?
That's actually a really good point. It probably did feel like work for a long time, but I don't know. I think in the last year and a half, and I did this great course last November about, finding joy in your work. And that definitely was a turning point for me. And you're right. It does not feel like a job. Like, there's certain things, that you don't really love doing. But generally, I just love getting in there. I love seeing it's about the people. It's, even, an oven goes down or compressors go down and coolers and all this stuff. and it's terrible. Like, these things are expensive to fix, and it's not immediate, and it hampers the business when you have to, run an extra 20 feet to a different cooler. Instead of having all the product right there in front of you. It increases your food times for the guest. But with all that, it's still fun. It's fun and it's joyful, and I feel honored that I even get to work with these people because they're trusting me, and I'm loving every minute with them.
Well, let's talk about that mentorship piece, because you talked early at the beginning about that first job experience and working with that woman that really mentored you. And I hear what you're talking about from a mentorship perspective. And I know that you've also done other work in the last few years where you've done training and mentoring women who are, working out. That's how we first met, right? So I know that you have an interest in coaching in that piece. So talk to me about how you bring that into your work. And why that matters to you.
Yeah, I think if I was going to look back and my relationship with Barb at the public relations firm, I was a naive girl from the farm. I didn't really, and I'm living in the city. Regina wasn't a huge city, but it's a big city to me because I'm coming from the farm. I didn't know really anything, culture, all these things I didn't know. But she was so patient, and she explained, any client we worked with, she always explained why we were approaching something the way we were. And I grew so much with her. Like, I just feel like, that was my point of life, where I moved from this farm kid to a successful professional. And now it's my turn to give back. It's my turn to find those opportunities where I can coach people. I can mentor them. I can help them be their best selves. And, you talk about training, and that's what drew me to training, is that, especially working with women, I was not, chronic stress with a job for so many years. I wasn't in the best shape of my life.
Yeah.
I wasn't taking care of myself because it was always about the business. And then all of a sudden I keyed in on that, and all of a sudden I started changing and improving and feeling good about myself and feeling healthy, and the whole exercising and everything just felt so great. And then that's what drew me to training women. It was like, okay, this happened for me. This can happen for others, and I can be part of this, and I can watch their growth. Wow, there is something to be said in watching people grow. And you feel just such a sense of love and connection with them when they're like, oh yeah, I hit a new PR, or, whatever it might be. How can you not feel joy for them?
Yeah.
That I feel good when people are happy, and I want to help them be happy.
Well, there's something that comes out of giving to others.
Absolutely.
It's so fueling. So the fitness piece, where did that line up in the owning Boston Pizza for 15 years? When did you start making that transition to care for yourself?
Well, I think it was 2017. So yeah, quite a few years ago now. I had a lot of neck and shoulder pain. It actually started in 2014. I had been going to yoga a lot, like sometimes twice a day.
Right.
So it was my outlet. I'm like, okay, this is my starting point. Needing to unleash some of the built up stress in my life. So I'm going to hit up yoga. So I had done that, and all of a sudden I started getting a ton of shoulder and neck pain. So there was one day in particular, I was on the couch, and I'm like, I can't go to work today. Like, I couldn't even lift my head off the couch. It hurt so bad. So I from there, I'm like, okay, I'm signing up with a personal trainer. Exercise is going to be what's going to help this.
Yeah.
So that's how I started. I started going 2 days a week. Then I was going 3 days a week. And then I did that for about a year and a half. And then I'm like, I think I'm ready to go on my own. Like, fly the nest here. So then I started going to the gym on my own, which was a huge step and very nerve-wracking because I didn't know if I knew what I was doing, because when you have a trainer,
you don't have to think about
it. They do everything for you. So you just show up, and they're like, they give you the dumbbells, and here you go. You're going to do this. So that was, a little transition for me started. And then it's so liberating. Like, oh my gosh, I can do this on my own. and I'm getting fit and I'm feeling healthy, let's keep going. And just kept going with that. So yeah, I guess it's been 7 years, 8 years. So
well, and you attacked fitness the way you attack work.
Yes.
Like, we're doing this and I'm going to do it well.
Yeah.
And there's no looking back. Like, this is who I am now.
Yeah.
This is what I do now.
Yeah. And if you have ever read James Clear, Atomic Habits, that's actually one of the things he talks about in the book is saying what you want to be. So I'm a gym goer, or I'm a workout person. Once you start saying that and you believe it, your actions are going to match your words. And that's the kind of the whole idea of some of his tips in the book.
So you transformed that part of your life in amidst running this business. And then you started doing some personal training. Yeah.
I was looking for a little bit of a side, because it was giving me so much joy that I thought, well, this could be my little outlet, because the business wasn't at that point that I was getting the joy from the business. Right. But these were the small pieces. I'm like, okay, well, if I can go train this person for an hour, that's going to lift me up watching them do their thing and improve and better themselves. So that's kind of how that started. And I did that for about 2 or 3 years. Just kind of outside, like work the hours around my work schedule.
Well, and what's interesting about that is we can put so much weight or pressure on a certain circumstance. Like, work has to be everything for me. And it didn't have to be for you. Like, you found that there were other outlets. Like, it was okay that work wasn't a big source of joy because you had another source of joy. And it was okay to separate it.
Yeah.
Because you were putting your head down and you were doing work for a reason, and you were getting fueled somewhere else, which enables you to keep your head down and do well at the thing you're doing.
Yeah.
What's amazing now is that those two things have aligned.
Absolutely. I now work my work schedule around what I want to do. So if I know I'm going to have a later workout that day, then I go in later. And, if I want to go for lunch or if I want to take the day off to go do something, I work my schedule around what I want to do. And I know that's a big piece I pulled out of that course last fall, creating the life you want. And when you're an entrepreneur, you can do that. I'm not locked into 8 to 5. And if I want to go do something, I can go do that. And that is wonderful.
You know what's interesting about that is when you first started as an entrepreneur, you started out with wanting that freedom, but you didn't have that freedom.
Right.
Like, you made all of these sacrifices for work, but you weren't reaping the benefits that you thought you were going to.
Yeah, which I think created some of that resentment. Because
resentment towards what?
Towards the job. Probably not loving the job because you kind of resented it, because here you thought it was going to be this. It turned out to be this, and you're not living what you thought you would be living.
Yeah.
I thought the freedom would come right away. I didn't know it was going to take 12 years to get that freedom, or 10 years.
And then that resentment that gets associated with work, because it's letting you down.
Yeah.
You said you were going to give me this work. You were going to give me freedom to go watch my kids' Christmas concert in the middle of the day, or that we were going to have time, or these things for our family, and you're letting me down. It like builds resentment towards work. And when you're in business with your partner, that resentment towards work, it starts to feel like the resentment is towards your partner.
Absolutely.
Like it's almost like all that anger you're directing towards work, they start to think that it's their fault because they are also creating this beast.
Yeah. Totally.
And it's so hard to break out of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally agree. But here we are.
And with that positive outlook, it's like, okay, we're doing things different now. I'm doing things differently now.
Yeah, because I'm in charge.
Because you're in charge.
Of me.
Yeah. Well, and the business.
Yeah.
You get to make the decisions, and that's when those shifts have really happened.
Yeah.
It sounds like you were leaning in that way prior to getting to make all the decisions.
Yes. But just being mindful that there is other people and not executing it.
Well, because you're relational.
Yeah.
You probably recognize that model that you wanted to instill into your company wasn't going to have legs when your business partner wasn't on the same page.
Yeah.
And that's part of being in business with people is it's this dance and this navigation of how are we going to do this together. And sometimes you think it's all going to work out because you're family and you love each other, speaking from my own experience right now. And it doesn't work that way.
No.
Sometimes things fail.
And it might not even be with a partner. It might be with someone else that you've gone into business with.
Exactly.
And you're doing that dance with them. So it can be very difficult at times, for sure.
It's not for the faint of heart.
No, definitely not.
Angela, you exude so much confidence in the work that you do and the way that you go about work. And I'm wondering if for you in your experience, because you didn't go to business school, but I'm wondering if there was this moment, this defining moment or this time where all of a sudden you knew what you were doing, or you knew that you weren't just faking it anymore. You were actually doing the work, being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I don't know if there was a defining moment, but I would say that once I started running the business myself, then the weight was on my shoulders, right? No one else had to bear any responsibility. It was all me. And I think that was probably the moment that I thought, okay, we're doing this. And if we're going to do this, we are going to do it so well that we are going to blow people's socks off. And I like to think that I have done that. I have, with the sales and the goals and everything that we've done the last 2 years, I know my partnership group is very appreciative of the hard work. I think, I wanted to prove myself, and I think I'm doing that every day. And
you wanted to prove that if you went out and did this, because you went out kind of on your own. I mean, you didn't and you did, right? You wanted to prove that you could do this, and not only that you could do this, but you could do this better than you had been doing it.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to, like I said, with my dad on the farm and finding new ways to do things. I am such a huge believer, and I try to enable the staff to do this too. Find a better way to do this. And even today in my mind, I'm like, okay, we've been singing the same birthday song for 15 years, and I am so tired of it, but no one's come up with a new song. So today I'm like, that's it. My mission now is we have to figure out a new birthday song that we're going to sing. So, it's little things like that. You're always thinking how to better something, how to improve, how to help everybody be their best selves. We might have, I know we have some songwriters on staff, and I know darn well if I actually go to them, they're going to come up with a fantastic birthday song. So that'll be the next step. Well,
and that inspiring piece of I created the birthday song, it's a big deal to it seems silly and people could take it as silly, but knowing that you have the opportunity to contribute to something that could change the way a restaurant does birthdays, that's a really amazing opportunity for young people or people in that type of work. Because I think a lot of times in the service industry, when you don't own, but when you work there, you don't necessarily feel like you have a lot of say or control or ownership in what you're doing. And it seems like you're finding ways to give your team ownership in the way that they do their work.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you have to as an entrepreneur. Because if you're just working in this silo and I'm coming up with the ideas and like, okay, guys, go do this. Well, they're not going to buy into that, right? But if they're along for the process and we figure out together, how do we make this better? Say it's the birthday song. I'll tell you what, it's going to be so good. And every single person is going to be on board because they want to feel like they were part of it all. And I want them to. I don't really want to come up with the birthday song, but I do know we need to change it. But hey, let's put it out to them. They're creative. They got ideas. I know they'll come up with something great. Mm-hmm. I have so many things I want to do. My limitation is time. And I know there's so many things we can improve upon. I know there's so many things that we can do better. I know we can drive sales even more. But I'm trying to only tackle so many things at once because now my personal life is important to me. Creating this life I want to live is important to me. So I can't do everything all at once. And so maybe, once winter comes around and maybe we slow down a little bit, okay, maybe now we can work on this. I want to do like coffee chats with the staff and things like that to get their ideas on how to make things even better. So lots of little things that we can implement.
So you're just going to keep working away at that. You don't have to do everything at once.
Yeah.
Because you have it established. And so now you can work at these things little by little and continue to grow, continue to improve, but you don't have to sacrifice yourself.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't that be just wonderful?
Wouldn't that be awesome?
Yes.
When you made that big move, when you guys chose that you were going to do this business and you made the commitment to pick your family up, move to Cranbrook, did you have a feeling of, what am I doing? Why did I make this decision?
Yeah, I don't think people give enough credit to leaving everything leaving family, friends, probably the hardest thing we ever had to do, and picking up and moving to a place you've never been before, and you have a 2-year-old, and you don't really even know the business that well. You do a little bit of training, but nothing prepares you for that. And I know probably the first day we opened, I was so blown away by the amount of people wanting to come in there that I said, what have we done? And now we're here. We're at this point now.
We can't turn around.
That's
the
right.
doors are...
There's a lineup. We can't even lock the doors and lock these people out. They're coming in whether we want them to or not. So, and we were like that for 3 months. And I'm not even kidding. It was $1 million in sales in 3 months. And let me tell you, that is a lot of pizza for $1 million.
That is a lot of pizza. Especially back then.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? 15 years ago, that is a lot of pizza.
Yeah, it was, but like they say, no risk, no reward, and I think we knew we just had to really put our heads down and work and really make this happen. And the reward would be there one day. And I will give credit, to my husband at the time, because I probably would have said, okay, forget it. We're going back, like pack up the trailer. We're heading back to Saskatchewan to what we know, because that's easy. But he was the one that kept saying, you know what, the rewards will be there down the road. We just got to put in the time, work hard. It'll happen.
That's amazing.
And he was right. It did happen.
Yeah.
We're at that point now where, I have a nice schedule and I can pick and choose, and that's the life I wanted.
That's why you chose this.
That's why I did it.
And now you've arrived.
Yeah.
You've got to the
It just would have been nice if it happened, a little earlier than 15 years, but that's okay.
Well, sometimes you get going.
Yeah.
Right? Like you're used to working that much, and you know that this is what you need to do, and you're filling your plate, and you're keeping your plate full, and you don't even realize that you don't need to anymore, because that's what you've been doing for so long. And it can be hard to shift.
Yeah.
It can be hard to shift to that place. But having that clear break for you where you were coming back in alone enabled you to have to rethink everything.
Yeah.
But I think it's much more difficult to transition and shift away when you're used to working that hard.
Yeah, it totally is, because it becomes a part of who you are.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not doing enough if I'm not working that hard. But you really need to reframe your thinking, because I think, the whole work smarter, not harder. You need to look at that. You really do. And where are you spending your time? And do you have the right people that you can actually do this? And I think that up until the last couple of years, there were so many challenges. It just seemed like every year there was something big happening that was a challenge to the business. There was an economic downturn there for a while, all the stuff with COVID, not being able to get staff. Like, it just seemed like it was just always seemed to be, there was a down. But the last year and a half, rarely any downs. And hopefully that's a good thing. I better knock on wood.
Well, I just want to point out that, was there an outlook change too that happened in that time, like where you were approaching work differently? Because yeah, I know what you're saying. There's these ups and downs, but you also talked about, you show up and you open that back door and you don't know what's going to happen. And I'm sure there's been things in the last year and a half that could have in previous years been a way bigger down
than
they were. But because of the the experiences that you've had running the business, because you understand the ebbs and flows, that down wasn't as deep.
Yeah, I was just going to say, reflecting now in the last couple of years, like the downs aren't as down as they used to be. And probably because my outlook is in a totally different place than where I was before. Now it's like, oh, that cooler's down? Well, just move everything back to this cooler. And, you know, it's so simple now. Like it's, you know, pivoting basically. And I don't think that we had the ability to do that before. It's like, oh my God, the cooler's down. What are we going to do? You know, and it's like, life is over. The cooler's down. Well, is it though? No, it's not. You know, you need to look at it optimistically or positive and just see, okay, how can we make this work? And I think that's where my talent probably lies, is that no matter what happens, okay, how do we make this work? I'm always thinking that. And I probably owe that to my dad, because my dad is jack of all trades. He could fix anything or do anything. And I was always right there alongside him with the wrench and, you know, whatever it was. And maybe that's one of the traits that he gave me, is I'm always like, okay, we can fix this. We can make this happen. Mm-hmm. And that's always, every single day, that's how I approach it.
Well, and when you approach it that way, the people that you've surrounded yourself with, the people that are working alongside you, your team, they're adopting that outlook.
They start to find their own solutions.
Yes, because
it's not coming to me with all the little things, because now they figured out they can fix it themselves.
Yeah, because they have this model. They have this place that they look to, and this is what they're told to do. Yeah. Oh, there's a solution for this. We can make this work. And then they've seen you do it.
Yeah. I try very much to model the behavior I want for my staff. And I've always, since day one, we have always said, there is no job that we will not do. So if I need to go into the washroom to clean up something that's not pleasant, I go do it. Or if a child has thrown up in the restaurant, I go clean it up. Because I know my staff will respect me for that. And it also means if I'm not there, they're willing to do it because they've seen me do it.
Right.
So I'm not above any job in the restaurant. I will do anything.
Well, and that inspires confidence in your leadership. And it inspires loyalty. Mm-hmm. Because you feel like we are in this together. If I'm cleaning barf, you're cleaning barf. We're all cleaning barf.
That's right. Who doesn't want to?
Right? But it creates this feeling of solidarity.
Yeah.
And it gives you this joint vision of this is what we're doing. This is why we're doing it. And people want connection. They want to feel a part of something. Yeah. And by doing that, you're showing the team that we're together in this.
Yeah. Yeah, and I do. Like that's the walk I walk every single day. You need whatever, I'm going to go do that for you because I want to help you. Because I know at the end of the day, the guest is going to get a better experience if I can help that person do that one little thing. And that's the whole goal, is to make sure that the guest has a great experience and the staff have fun making that experience happen.
I love how you framed that. The piece about guest first and then team. Mm-hmm. Because I think sometimes when we're relational, we spend the majority of our time with our team, not with our guest.
Yeah.
So it can be difficult sometimes when you're thinking about your team all the time. It can be difficult to remind them that they're here about the guest. Mm-hmm. Because when you make it about them, they can start to feel like it's about them.
Yeah.
Right? And I love how you frame that it's the guest first.
Well, we're in a unique circumstance because most of our guests 10 months of the year are regulars. They're from the area. So how do we keep them coming back? We need to offer that unique experience every single time, a memorable experience every single time. We want to know their name. We want to know what they drink. And when we get to know them and they come in and I say, oh, hey, Mark, are you having a whatever it is today? They appreciate that. And they tell me that. I talk to the guests. They're like, we want to go where you know our name and your staff know our names.
Yeah.
And make them feel special. And I think that's what makes us stand out.
Well, and I think it speaks to a bigger human need around connection and wanting to be a part of things. And as much as our world has shrunk in the last few years because of technology, we're so distant from the people that we're doing life beside.
Yeah.
Because we can be distant. And we have this pseudo relationships with all of these people online. and we don't necessarily have connections in real life. And because we move away from home and we end up in communities where we don't know anyone, we don't have friends that have known us for our whole life, or we don't necessarily have these connections. And so I think we crave that.
Yeah, we totally do. And I was just at the Boston Pizza conference in Mexico in April. And the tagline or slogan for the conference was, "We feed the need to connect." And I sat back in my chair when they unveiled that on the screen. I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, that is exactly what we're doing. We are feeding that need for people to have a connection. And yeah, I've been using that ever since April. I'm like, every time I talk to anyone, yeah, we're feeding the need to connect. It's in all my radio advertising, everything, because we all want to connect. I think that is part of our purpose, is we want to connect with people. You know, if I'm out at the grocery store or whatever, and I see some of the people that come into Boston Pizza regularly, I stop and chat with them. And, you know, that's the beauty of it. You get to know so many people. And I just actually had a couple in tonight. Took food to their table, and I'm like, weren't you guys here yesterday? And they're like, yeah, we just didn't feel like cooking tonight. And I'm like, well, welcome back. We're glad to have you again in 2 days or whatever it was. So I just, yeah, that's part of the whole thing. It's connecting with these strangers that now become friends.
Well, and it makes the work rewarding.
Yeah.
This is why you're doing it.
Yeah. And I'm looking at these people today. I'm like, well, they must have had a great experience yesterday that they want to come right back to us again tonight. They could have chose any other restaurant.
Yeah.
But here they are.
Here they are.
And I love it. And I thank them, because that's part of it too. Show gratitude to these people that keep coming back every single time.
Because they're the reason why you're able to keep your doors open.
Exactly.
Which is the reason why you're able to feed your family.
Yeah.
And have the life that you want to have, is because of your guests.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I do tell the staff that. I'm like, just remember, a lot of these people, they're regulars. Like, they come in 5 days a week. So we want to make them feel special. We want them to feel like they're important when they come here. And we appreciate them, because we really do appreciate them.
Yeah.
We want that repeat business.
Well, and sometimes I think in the service industry, there can be a disconnect between the customer, the guest, and this is where your paycheck comes from.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like
yeah.
It's a funny thing, because it's not directly like that, but there can be that disconnect between the people that you're serving in that case. And when you remember that, it shifts the dynamic a bit too, like into this place of gratitude. Like, I'm thankful for what you're giving me, which is an ability to earn money so that I can support the lifestyle that I'm living, or my family, or whatever the piece is.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I think your story is so inspiring.
Well, one thing I just wanted to add, I just thought about, is when I see a server or a host at a table chatting with them, and the table, the couple or the family's laughing, the server's laughing, and I honestly, I'll stop right in my tracks and I just watch for a few seconds, because I'm like, this is what it's about. You can see that connection happening, and you can tell that the staff member's having a great time, and the guests are totally entertained, and that is just absolutely wonderful.
Well, and when you were talking about going to that work retreat and them unveiling what the slogan was, what is so incredible is you were already doing that.
Yeah.
Like, they could have taken a page out of your book.
Yeah.
You know, you already knew that this is what it was about right now.
Yeah.
Because there are seasons where we need more of that. And I think we're in a season where we need connection, because we were so starved.
Yeah.
For a few years.
I can totally see that in people that are coming in. Absolutely.
So you're meeting that need for connection, along with this ability to celebrate these moments from their life.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing.
It is.
Getting to be a part of people's lives.
Yeah. We're more than pizza.
You are more than pizza. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much. I really enjoyed this.
I'm so thankful for your openness and your willingness to share the different parts of your life and where you've gotten to. And I'm excited to bear witness to the life that you're living, because it is motivating, and it's encouraging to know that people in business care about their customers and about the circumstances or the culture that they're creating. I think that's really encouraging, and I'm excited to see where this goes and how this grows in your life.
Too. Thank you.
Yeah.